Welcome to the Food 52 kitchen. I'm Emily Ziemski. And I'm Emily Ziemski. And I'm Emily Ziemski. Oh my god, me too! Today we are making grapefruit and tarragon upside-down cake from start to finish. With a vegan variation. With a I am out of baking powder version. And a cornmeal swap! This is No Substitutions! How do we do? Guys? You good? Yeah. To kick it off, we're gonna start with the OG version, so that is no substitutions. And later on in the video, me and also me are gonna teach you how to do it with test kitchen approved variations that can work for you. First things first, you wanna make sure your oven's preheated. You wanna get it to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If you wanna do it on convection bake, make sure it's 25 degrees lower, so 325. I'm gonna start with just lining my pan, getting that ready. You can use a really cool silk pat, but I know a lot of people do not have silk pats, so I'm gonna show you a really cool hack for doing it with parchment paper. So I have a little extra butter. If you're gonna be making the vegan version of this, instead of using butter to get your parchment to stick and also to line the pan later, you're gonna use some olive oil. You're gonna take a square that is just roughly bigger than your cake pan. I'm gonna revert to kindergarten style, which is we're gonna fold it hot dog wise, so horizontal, and then fold it once hamburger style. This is literally the only way I remember how to fold things. And then I'm gonna take this top angle that has all of the folds, and I'm going to fold it in half into this triangle like this. I'm gonna take this pan and flip it upside down, and I'm gonna go from the middle, taking some scissors, and I'm just gonna cut it around. Just try to get it as close to the pan as possible. And this should fit perfectly on the inside of your pan. So I'm just gonna, again, go over this with butter. Vegan version, you're doing olive oil. We're gonna get into our fruits. We're getting into our grapefruit. We're gonna zest that first and set it aside. That's gonna go into the batter. And then we are going to cut it up into beautiful, juicy segments that we're gonna line on the bottom of the pan. I'm using a microplane. If you have a box grater, that is cool. Another hack you can do, you can give your grapefruit a good peel, just making sure you're not getting into the pith, which is the white stuff. That's where most of the vitamin C is, surprisingly, but that's where all the bitterness is also. And we don't want that in our cake. And then you can rough chop it from there. If grapefruit's not in season, it's not your thing, you can substitute any citrus. I mean, we've all come in contact with an upside down cake of sorts. The classic is pineapple. You could do apples if they're in season. You could do plums, peaches. We're doing the classic today. Wow, this is a nice zesty boy. That's very exciting for me. I'm actually gonna pop him into my sugar because that's where it's gonna go. I mean, there is no wrong place to put the zest in, just as long as it gets in there. So I'm gonna cut in until you start to see full flesh. Looks like a 1/4 inch. So we are gonna get into cutting the peel off, just the edges. We're gonna trim it. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. If there's a little bit of pith, you know, it's not bad for you. This cake actually is one of the first things I made for my column +1, which is all about just like sides and little things, little additions that you can add to your dinner table, your lunch table, your picnic. This cake is just inspired by cakes that my grandmother used to make. And they were always just like so juicy and full of flavor. This is a little meditative. If you want to prep these, just make sure they're in an airtight container so they stay juicy. The way this works is kind of like a fake brulee. So we're gonna put some demerara sugar on the bottom of this pan, and when it hits the oven, the demerara sugar is gonna melt and brulee the grapefruit a little bit. Demerara sugar it's a brown sugar, but it's just a thicker, coarser sugar, so there's gonna be some crunchy crystals on top, but we want that. That gives that brulee element. So this is not an exact science. We're just sprinkling it over top. This is why we lined the pan again with butter, just so that it totally sticks. And you can, use your hand, get in there. And I'm just gonna as tightly as you can. Get some grapefruit segments in here. You want every piece of cake to have a little bit of grapefruit because, like, that's the point, right? And then one right in the center. So we're gonna set this aside, it's gonna hang out for a bit, and we're gonna get going on the actual batter for the cake. We are still in the OG version. If you are doing any substitutions, we're still working together. So I've just got my fresh tarragon. I love the smell. It is just such a good flavor profile. It works really, really well with grapefruit. The sweet juiciness just plays really, really well. Again, I'm gonna say this a million more times. If tarragon is not your thing and you want another herb, please do it. I love zesting citrus and I love cutting fresh herbs because then the smell like hangs out on your fingers all day. When I was in culinary school, you could tell who was a baker because I would get out of class and I would smell like fresh herbs and fruit and sugar, and the people in the savory program would smell like garlic and fish. And it would just be like on them. You'd be like, what is this? Is that your hand? So I'm just giving this a rough chop. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're not here for perfect, we are here for substitutions. Tarragon is gonna go in with the flour, so I'm actually just gonna pop it in right there. We're actually getting into our batter now. So the first thing I'm doing for the OG version is I'm creaming together my butter and sugar. In the original recipe, I actually melted down the butter. You're gonna see this play into the vegan version. If you are doing the vegan version, you are going to go to the time code below and you're gonna go see my friend and work with her. But if you're staying with me, we're gonna cream together the butter and sugar. So I just have my softened butter here. So I have my brown sugar with the grapefruit zest that's already in. This is a light brown sugar. I'm working on medium speed here, so about a 4 to 6. That's just the right place to get agitation without getting everything flying all over the place. So this is gonna go for about like a couple of minutes. It's just like 3 to 4 minutes. We are looking to get this a little lighter, a little fluffier than how it started. So I'm gonna give it a scrape just to make sure there's no like unmixed butter hanging out on the side, and then let it go for another minute or 2 more, and then we're gonna keep going. And it looks like she's there. So again, one more scrape. Scrape, scrape, scrape. So we're gonna add our eggs at this point. If you are doing the no baking powder version, we're gonna do our eggs a little bit differently. It's gonna be fun, it's gonna be funky, we're gonna have a good time. You can say hi to me over here, and you can check out the time code below. But if you're staying with me, let's keep going. Let's add our eggs one at a time. These eggs are room temperature. We don't want our nice soft butter to start seizing up because we have cold eggs. So I'm just giving it a little mix on about 2 to 4 medium speed for about 30 seconds just to get it kind of incorporated. It doesn't have to be totally fully incorporated until the second egg. So at this point, we're also gonna add our vanilla. So I'm giving this a pause. Again, another good scrape. I can already see as this is mixing, there's stuff hanging out in the bottom, not getting incorporated fully. So now with a good scrape done, I'm gonna mix this for another 2 minutes or so on medium speed. It's a little bit separated, but with a little time, a little patience, it's gonna come together. All right, dry ingredient time. If you are gonna go hang out with no cornmeal Emily, she's the best Emily, I'm gonna go say hi to her over here. Check out the time code below to go hang out with her. If you're staying with me, the OGs, we're gonna keep at it. So for our dry ingredients, it's really important to sift them. Cornmeal, not so much. Flour, absolutely. Sifting allows for a little bit of aeration of the flour and keeps your batter light, keeps it fluffy, and there's not gonna be any flour pockets. When you're working with flour pockets, you end up mixing your batter for a little too long, and that results in a tougher crumb because it works the gluten a little bit longer. It's like a nice light, it's a beautiful snow. And then you're gonna have to pick your tarragon out. You know what? It's okay to mess up, it's okay to improvise. I have my cornmeal. I have my salt. Please salt your baked goods. It helps them get a really nice brown color. Baking powder. Cheers to you, no baking powder, Emily. I hope you're doing okay. We are gonna mix this on medium speed, again, 2 to 4, until just combined. We really don't want to overmix this. This is a really light, tender batter. This batter looks so nice. This is a thick batter. It's not a thin, pourable batter. Our cake pan is back and you can already see the juices seeped out a little bit. It's starting to form this like really nice liquid, a golden liquid on the bottom, which is gonna brown up and caramelize and seep into the entire cake. If you're at home, it is totally okay to lick the batter. Do whatever you want in your house. It smells like a spring bake sale. It smells like summer sunrise. It smells like absolute delight. So I am just trying to make sure the batter is as even as possible. Now it's time for the best part, which is putting this beauty in the oven. She's gonna go for about 30 to 40 minutes. I always start at the lower end. I subtract 5 minutes, and that's when I start checking, because every oven is super different. Some are electrical, some are gas, some are 5 million years old because they've been in a rented apartment and 50,000 people have used them. So I'm gonna start checking in with her at 25 minutes, and to see how they all came out, you're gonna come back with me at this time, and we'll see how we did. Hello friends, welcome to the vegan version. So at this point, I've already prepped my demerara sugar, my tarragon, my grapefruit slices. As you can see, my cake pan is nice and ready to go. I can't have dairy. So this is a nice sub for people who can't have dairy, who can't have eggs, are trying to limit their eggs, or are just vegan. For butter, we are going to be substituting olive oil here. You can also use any other neutral oil, grapeseed oil, you can use avocado oil if you'd like. So instead of using a creaming method, which is butter and or a harder fat, so shortening and sugar, we are doing oil and sugar and blending that together. Blending method is more traditionally used in cakes because cakes have a formed pan, so they can spread out a little bit because they've got a container to kind of live in. So I am just gonna get my oil in and my sugar with my lovely grapefruit. And I'm gonna blend this on medium speed, so around 4 for about 3 minutes. So while I'm getting my oil and my sugar blending, we're gonna talk about flax eggs. There's a couple different ways you can substitute eggs in recipes. You can do applesauce, you can do avocado, you can do banana. There's a couple different versions. You can also get actual vegan replacement egg, but we're gonna do a flax egg. I have 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. You wanna make sure it's very finely ground. And I have 5 tablespoons of water because I can do math. And that equals the 2 eggs that we use in the OG version. It needs to soak for about 4 to 5 minutes. Flax, when it's ground, it gets this jelly-y consistency, kind of similar to what you'd see with a chia seed. Get your oil and your sugar blending, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit. The oil and the sugar are blended together, the sugar's starting to dissolve, and also our flax egg is ready. I do just want to note, it's not going to leaven the same way. When you're substituting stuff, there's kind of this impetus to make it a 1-for-1, to be like, well, this has to be same, it has to mimic this. It's okay for stuff to be a little bit different. You're still getting the theme of it. We're still getting the tarragon, the grapefruit, the upside down, the sugar. It might look a little different. It's gonna taste amazing, but you will see. She's a little Jell-O girl. She's a little Jell-O girl. So I'm just gonna dump this in the same way you would the eggs, along with the vanilla. Medium speed, about a minute or 2, scraping down in between, just getting everything incorporated. Yeah, you can see this looks it's really gelatinous. This really excites me. The next step is our dry ingredients. From here on out, we are kind of on the same path as OG Emily. You will also notice, and you can tell this to OG Emily, don't put your tarragon in your flour because you have to sift it out, girl. What are you doing? So I'm just sifting my flour again. It's a little more important for this one, I think, than the original because we want all the help we can get with the lift. So we really want to make sure that our flour is fluffy, it's aerated, it's light. Cornmeal, salt, baking powder. Looking at you, girl, how you doing? Tarragon. Low speed, about 15 to 20 seconds. We are just getting everything incorporated. We don't want to overmix the flour. So because we're substituting liquids here, this batter is gonna be, it's a little bit tighter than the original batter. and that's totally fine. And I'm gonna give the last final couple of incorporations with my spatula just to make sure I'm not over mixing. So I have my prepared pan, our olive oil, our demerara sugar, our grapefruit segments, and I'm gonna add our batter, which is looking a little more like a dough, and it's okay. That's totally fine. It's gonna come out. This one is a little less spreading and a little more of just pushing it around. Trying to be gentle just to keep our grapefruit sitting where it is. And we're ready to go in the oven. This one also gonna go for about 30 minutes. I'm gonna start with 25 just because you don't know what everyone's individual oven is doing. If you know your oven, rock and roll. We're gonna start at 25, it might go up to 40, and that's all for me. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna see you guys again. You're gonna go back to hang out with OG Emily, and she is gonna show you how all these cakes turned out with all of our different versions, and you're gonna talk about it right here at this time. We don't have baking powder. It's fresh out. You've gotten ambitious. You said, I'm gonna bake a cake, we're gonna have fun, and there's no baking powder. It stinks, it's awful. We are going to do a fun little substitution. I've already creamed my butter and sugar. I need to separate my eggs because I'm going to use egg whites as a leavener. So we're gonna whip them up. You're going to fold that into our final batter, and that's what's gonna make our cake rise to high heavens. The first point of note when you're separating eggs is to always do them into a separate bowl that you are not immediately using. The reason why I say that is because you might make a little boo-boo mess up, get a little egg yolk into your white, and you have to start over. But if you put it into the bowl that you're already using, you have to totally start over, and then you have to clean your bowl really well, and that just kind of stinks. We're also using 3 eggs here instead of 2. That is just because I want a little more lift. I'm just using that to zhuzh up the cake to give it as much heft and body and rising as physically possible. So this is gonna go in. I'm gonna whip it on medium-high speed, so like 6 to 8 for about 30 seconds. Then from there, I'm gonna add my cream of tartar. Let's go. All right, so this is pretty whipped at this point. I'm adding my cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is an acid. It's actually derived from the winemaking process, which is like pretty cool. I think it's really cool. And my lovely producer just pointed out to me that if you have cream of tartar, you have baking powder and baking soda, and that's totally fine. And we're gonna do this anyway. So you actually don't have to use cream of tartar if you are in a really dry, unhumid kitchen. You don't need the help to keep your egg whites stabilized. If you are in a really humid kitchen, if you're doing this in the summer, you're gonna want a little cream of tartar. So I'm gonna whip this again, another 20 to 30 seconds, and then I'm gonna show you what the egg whites should look like at this point. Beautiful. Honestly, this is just like a fun substitution version if you, like me, love baking science and you just want to futz around with stuff and kind of see what happens. So right now, our egg whites are medium stiff peaks. Because of the cream of tartar, it's gonna hold for a bit. While I finish up the batter, this is my butter and my sugar, which you cream together with the OG version. So now where I would add the eggs normally after creamed butter and sugar, I'm just adding the egg yolks and vanilla. It's gonna go for about 3 to 4 minutes, medium high, 2 to 4 speed. We are just looking to incorporate this so everything is nice and homogeneous. It's not separated, it looks like a smooth batter. So from here, dry ingredients, we are going in with the flour, and we are not making the mistake like OG Emily, and we are putting in our tarragon after the flour so we don't have to sift it twice. Cornmeal, salt, tarragon, and again, I'm just gonna mix this batter until it just comes together, especially because I have to fold stuff in again after this, so we don't wanna overmix our batter. Medium, low speed, 2 to 4. So now Our batter is pretty much done. We are gonna get going folding in our egg whites. I put these into a separate bowl, so if you only have one KitchenAid bowl, start with your egg whites, make sure it's a clean bowl, free of any fat. If there's any fat in that bowl, it's gonna keep your egg whites from whipping up. So start with that clean bowl, whip your egg whites first, put them into another vessel, then keep going with your batter and put it in from there like this. And getting incorporated. I'm gonna do another about third. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement, it doesn't have to be perfect. With folding, it's like a cut in the middle and then push over. Another third. All right, this is our final incorporation. I wanna make sure there's no egg whites left. I'm gonna do the best job that I can. We're there. And we are ready to put our cake. We have lined the pan with demerara sugar, with butter, with grapefruit slices. And now we just gotta get the batter into the pan, into the oven. Beautiful. So this one is a little bit of a looser batter. Again, I'm trying to be as gentle as possible. I don't know about you, but I'm really interested to see how this one's gonna come out. I wanna get her in the oven as quickly as possible before she starts deflating too much, losing too much air. This is gonna go in for about 30 to 40 minutes. I'm starting at 25. I've said this before, every oven is its own journey, and you wanna start checking in about 5 minutes before the lowest time in a given recipe. Thank you so much for going on this long, arduous journey with me. I hope you learned something, I hope it was fun. You're gonna go back and hang out with OG Emily at this time, and I'll see you later. Hello friends, if you are joining me for this part of the video, that means you are doing a cornmeal substitution. Welcome. I am the final boss. We're using millet flour today. Millet flour is a gluten-free flour substitute. I'm using it in place of cornmeal if you have a corn allergy. If you don't like the gritty texture of cornmeal, which is like totally reasonable, totally viable, I am going to sift in my dry ingredients. I'm gonna have to sift both of these just because I want everything light and fluffy. I want to keep that airy texture. So I've sifted my AP, I'm sifting my millet flour. It also is a really nice swap for cornmeal because it is the same color. So you're still gonna get that really nice golden color without that gritty texture if that's something that you're really not going for, it's something you're really not into. We're gonna add our baking powder. Props to you, no baking powder, Emily. I hope she's living. And then some salt. And finally, our tarragon. I am going to mix this on really, really low speed. I'm gonna turn it on and off a couple of times just so you don't have flour explosion in your kitchen. Probably for about a minute. We're just looking to barely combine this. I don't wanna overmix this. I don't want to kill the crumb texture of my cake. All right. We are looking good. We are looking light. We are looking airy. She is giving texture. She is giving cornmeal, not there. And friends, if you've been watching this whole video, I hope you've gone on an entire ride with me because I've certainly gone on an entire ride. This is the multiverse of Emily's, where she just makes cakes until she absolutely collapses. So now I already have my cake pan prepped. I prepped it the same way as OG Emily. So I have my demerara sugar, my butter, my beautiful grapefruit slices, and I'm just gonna go in with my batter. So when you're spreading, since this is a thicker batter, it helps if you don't put all of it in the center because you're gonna have to push it around a little bit, and if you're pushing around the grapefruit slices too, they're gonna start shifting and moving, and this just kind of makes sure that doesn't happen. This smells so good. This is just such a good cake. I've been smelling it all day. It smells amazing. I can't wait for all of you to see all of our finished products that we've worked so hard on together. So this guy's gonna go in the oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. I'm gonna start at 25 because every oven is its own journey. I've said that so many times. I'm looking for it to be nice and golden brown. I'm looking for no crumbs when the toothpick comes out of it. You're gonna go back to OG Emily and she is gonna show you all these beautiful cakes that we've all worked on together, and I'll see you later. Hi, you're back. We did it. You went on the cinematic multiverse journey of Emily's making cakes. All of these cakes have been out of the oven. They have been resting for at least 15 minutes on a wire rack before being inverted. As you can see, we have our OG version, we have our vegan version, we have our no baking powder version, and we have our no cornmeal version. So we're gonna start with OG. This is the original. This has no substitutions. Oh my God, everything is tender and juicy and moist. Woo! This is a little dense cake. It's got a cornbread kind of vibe. It's not super fluffy, it's not super lifted. Next, we're cutting into our vegan version. I'm really excited about this version because this is the version I get to eat because it's the only one without dairy. Oh yeah. Again, a really nice dense crumb, the nice slice of grapefruit. This is a really dense one because of the flax and the oil, but a really classic olive oil cake. Now to move on to everyone's dark horse and most surprising, our baking powder or lack thereof version. Oh my God, whoa. Okay, look at that texture. That's pretty wild. This is probably the lightest of all of them. I'm really into this egg white version. I love food science. Food science is great. This is the millet flour swap. There's a little more lift. She's gonna be smooth. She's gonna be airy. I'm just cutting everyone giant slices of cake today and we're just gonna deal with it. Oh my gosh, yes. You see that? That is really gorgeous crumb, really gorgeous texture, really lovely brulee on top of the grapefruit. I'm gonna try the vegan one and I'm gonna let you know how it tastes, but also I want you to let me know when you make your version. Tell me how it is. Get in the comments, tell me about it, tell me what you love, tell me what you changed. Did you substitute something else? Did you put in a different sugar? Did you change the fruit? I wanna know about it. That's good. The grapefruit is beautiful. The tarragon with a little bit of licorice comes through, hits that citrus. It is just a bounty of really nice fresh flavors. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. All of these recipes are gonna be found in the show notes below, also on food52.com. And please let me know, what can I substitute next? We're gonna do this again, guys. I will be back, just like the multiverse, it never ends. I'm gonna go find my friends, you know, my other me's.